So what we would see then, these folks up here are 5s. They are typically going to have the safest jobs. Think about our accountant, for example. What is the likelihood of our accountant getting injured at work? Really nasty paper cut? Who knows? Also, if our accountant does get hurt, let's say our accountant goes away for the weekend skiing and breaks his leg skiing. Well, there's no reason he couldn't be back to work the next day after breaking his leg skiing. He comes back to work on cast and crutches, and he's fine. He can still do all the things that he would do as part of his day-to-day work. So we would see here short absences. Also, what we're normally going to see here is people who have worked very hard to get where they are. They've gone to school for a long time. They likely have invested more than just time and money into getting here as well. So we would say that these people typically have a high motivation and a high stability. That is, they're doing jobs that they want to do, and they're excited about doing them. Now, that's not to pick on anybody who falls elsewhere on the chart, but this is how insurance companies generally approach this. So let's have a look at our 1s now as a way of contrast. We could have, for example, a minor. A minor would be a good example of somebody who would fit into this category. And anybody who follows the news will know that these jobs are not particularly safe. We would see down here with our 1s a very dangerous set of jobs. And then imagine if our minor does go off skiing for the weekend and breaks his leg, just as our accountant had. Well, our minor is not in a position where he's going back to work on a cast and crutches. So these people would also have longer absences if they had to be away from work. And, again, not to paint anybody with a broad brush here, but this is how insurance approaches this. And some of you watching this video will have worked in jobs like this, and some of you will have seen some of your coworkers who maybe were not excited about getting up and going to work every day. People who would look for a way to get out of the workplace or whatever you happen to have. So we would say over here as well that these people are going to have low motivation and low stability. Now, taking all that into account, we can recognize the type of disability benefit that these people are going to be able to access. So, the folks up at the top of the chart here are going to have access to the most generous definition of disability at the lowest cost, typically. They're going to have access to, for their total definition of disability, that is, we would say this person is totally disabled when they can't do their own occupation. What does that mean? Well, that means that, let's say we have our surgeon up here. A surgeon, a very specific type of doctor, whose skills very much rely on their ability to use their hands. Let's say that our surgeon develops a disability that renders them unable to use their hands. I don't think anybody would want that person operating on them at that point. So now, what happens is we say that person normally collected the income from being a surgeon. Well, now, they're not able to do their own occupation. They're going to start to receive disability benefits by virtue of the fact they can't do that own occupation. And as long as they can't do their own occupation, they're going to continue to receive disability benefits. Now, let's say that our surgeon becomes disabled, becomes unable to use their hands, can't work as a surgeon anymore. And this person ends up collecting own occupation disability benefits. But maybe after a year or so on disability, this person says, you know, I can't just sit around the house anymore. I do have a pretty good skill set that I'd like to go out and use. And maybe what happens is our surgeon goes and gets a job at the Faculty of Medicine at the local university teaching surgery. They're going to get paid to teach surgery, and because they're still not doing their own occupation, that is working as a surgeon, they're going to continue to receive that disability benefit. So they will actually be able to double up their disability benefits. It's really only people in the own occupation classes that are going to get that. Really only our 5s or our 4As that are going to have access to that very generous own occupation definition of disability. Our 1s, these folks down here, they're going to have a more restrictive definition of disability. They're going to have access to the any occupation or any OC definition of disability. And what this means, this person is going to get benefits as long as they can't do any occupation at all. So let's say we have somebody who works in the agricultural industry, maybe somebody who makes their living on grain elevators, for example, and this person becomes disabled, becomes unable to do their job. Maybe after a period of 6 or 7 months, they develop the ability to be mobile again, maybe even from a wheelchair. At that point, their doctor says, you know, there are jobs you could do. The insurance company looks at that medical report and says, that seems fair. This person could go to work in a contact center, for example, or maybe do an administrative job somewhere. Once they're able to do some other job, they're no longer eligible for that NEOC definition of disability. Now, different insurance companies are going to approach that differently. Some insurance companies will be very generous in applying that NEOC definition of disability, and some insurance companies will be more restrictive. Now, you're probably asking, well, what about these folks in the middle, our 2s, 3s, and our 4s? And chances are most of the folks watching this video fall somewhere into those categories. So, these folks have access to what we call the regular occupation definition of disability. And by regular occupation, what we mean is that these people will get benefits as long as they can't do a job that falls within the regular range of their skills, education, or experience. Or sometimes we would say skills, training, or experience. What that really means is you had a resume before you became disabled. The resume had a certain set of skills on it, things that you were able to do. As long as you're able to do a job that you would reasonably get with that resume, we would say you're not disabled. If you can't do a job that falls within the skill sets on your resume, the things that you would normally apply for, then we'd say you are now disabled. You're not able to do a job that falls within the regular range of your skills, education, or experience. We're going to pay you a disability benefit. Now, what if you are able to do one of those jobs, but you find that your income is significantly reduced from your pre-disability levels? Well, now what's going to happen is, within this regular occupation definition of disability, we're going to top up your income to your pre-disability level. How that actually gets interpreted varies from insurance company to insurance company. The idea here is the same, though, across the board, that if we have somebody who was doing a job within this 3 range and making, let's say, $100,000 a year, and they become disabled, no longer able to do that job, now earning just $60,000 a year, the insurance company says, we're going to fill in that $40,000 gap for you.